All right, Shalom. It's the brother Barzal from GMS Atlanta. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh Shemi Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and a Shalom to all the Akim out there pushing the word in sincerity and in truth. And I just want to entitle this "The Establishment of the Spiritual Temple," which this is the time we're at now. So I'm just going to basically go into a little bit of biblical history to show, the count or the chronology of our first temple until where we at now. So I'm just gonna go into it right now. Just gonna jump straight into it in the spirit. But I'm gonna start during the time of Solomon, because that's the time where the first temple was established. Solomon built the temple. He built his house, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 13 years, and he built the temple, the first Jewish temple, or the Israelite temple. It is Jewish means to pertain to the Jews, but our first temple was established by King Solomon. When you read that in the book of Kings, all right, and it says, and this is not 960 BCE, BCE meaning before the Common Era, which most brothers know. But David's son, King Solomon, builds first Jewish temple. It says Assyrians conquer Samaria, refugees flee to Jerusalem, and city expands on the western hill. The Syrians ruled Sennacherib, laid siege in Jerusalem. Babylonians forces destroyed Jerusalem and demolished the first temple in 586 BC. So the establishment that King Solomon made in 960 BCE, it got destroyed in 586 BCE by the Babylonians. All right, that's when the southern kingdom, they got taken down by the Babylonians, and the northern kingdom got taken down under the Assyrians. The Assyrians, and in due time, like it says in the scriptures, the northern kingdom went to the Americas. But we just focusing on what happened with us and the Babylonians right now. Us falling under the Babylonians and tearing our temple down, and us being under the Babylonian captivity. And fast forward in history, you had the Persian and the Medo-Persian Empire conglomerate being established, and allowing us to reestablish our second temple. All right, but you can read it through the scriptures. I'm just going through it, through the chronology. When you read Kings, Chronicles, Ezra, excuse me, Nehemiah, so on and so forth. Esther goes into it. That's that timeline from the Babylonian to the Persian Persian rule. But it says Persian ruler Cyrus the Great conquers Babylonian Empire, including Jerusalem. Cyrus permits, it is 539 BCE, Cyrus permits Jews in Babylonian exile to return to Jerusalem. Second temple built. So that's when Cyrus, he gave the permit to allow us to establish our second temple, which the first temple was totally demolished by the Babylonians. Now I'm just going to jump down a little bit, because after that, which most brothers for the most part know, after the Persian Empire, you had the Greek Empire. Where you read in the book of Maccabees, that's the Greek Empire being established. Antiochus Epiphanes, first and foremost, Alexander the Great, and his four generals, Lysimachus, Seleucus, Ptolemy, if I forgot one, Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander. All right. But this is 332 and 141 BCE. Ptolemaic and Seleucus rule in Jerusalem. And when you read it in the scriptures, you had the Seleucid dynasty, the Ptolemaic dynasty warring with the Seleucid Empire constantly. When you read that in the first and second Maccabees, and during that time frame, that's when they tore our temple down, being the second temple that was established during the time of the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great. All right, but the Hasmonean dynasty begins, which that's the Hasmonean period where you have the Maccabean family being established, and they basically establishing their dynasty. A dynasty is a family line of rulers. But I'm gonna jump to the point, because they desecrated our temple. When you read it in the book of Maccabees, they're setting up the abomination of desolation and destroying partially destroying our second temple and defiling it. And when you read the account, basically we reestablished it and made it holy. All right, and then after that you have the Herodian period, which that's Herod, 37 BCE to 70 CE. All right, before the Common Era to the Common Era, if I'm not mistaken. And it says 37 BC, King Herod restructures the second temple, adds retaining walls. In 30 CE, Yahushua crucified by the Romans in Jerusalem. And in 70 CE, is the Romans forces destroy Jerusalem and demolish the second temple. All right. Now, which brothers know in 70 CE or 70 AD, after the death of the Lord, Titus and Titus the son of Vespasian and Domitian, that family line, they basically desecrated. They took a heavy part in the desecration of our second temple. They totally demolished it. All right. So that's when our second temple was totally demolished. And in 70 AD, we got ran out of our land and we spread out to the four corners. All right. Majority of us, the bulk of us, ran to the Africa. You know, through history, ran to the western coast of Africa. Some into Europe, some into Asia, some, we basically spread all throughout. All right. So since I went through a history of the second temple being established, I'm just gonna go into this third temple, which is the spiritual temple. This is the temple that we're establishing right now through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai. So I'm just gonna go through a couple scriptures and prove that point. But this is Luke 17 and 21. It says, "Neither shall they say, Lo here, or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of the Most High is within you." So this is the temple that the Most High is establishing, the temple inside of us. That's why the Lord said, "Out of 2 or 3 witnesses, my word shall be established." Now the temple was an area of worship for the Israelites. All right. Now, from us being driven from country to country, like it tells you when, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Isaiah tossed to and fro like a ball. The Most High isn't looking for a physical temple to be built up where his spirit will dwell. He's looking for a spirit to dwell in man. After Yahushua made the ultimate sacrifice, all those physical things were basically done away with, and we're basically under spiritual law. All right, which that's the kingdom of heaven. All right, the kingdom of heaven is dwelling in a excuse me, I'm a little sick, but it's dwelling in the spirit of brothers that's pushing his word. All right. And it's not a physical location. That's why it says the kingdom of the Most High is within you. All right. So this is 1 Peter 2 and 5. "Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house." And stones are used to what? Establish a temple. All right. And stones also were used for sacrifices. All right. When you read in the scriptures, it has to be a whole stone that you would lay out. That would basically, that's the only. It was a certain requirement for the stone to be sacrificed upon. So we are the spiritual sacrifices. We are the spiritual temple. All right, the spiritual house. All right. It says in holy priesthood, and the priests, the high priests were the ones that were known to basically conduct certain things inside of the temple. All right, going to the holy of holies and different things of that nature. It was a certain requirement, but the Most High done away with that old law, and now we're a spiritual priesthood. Like the scriptures say, we're a nation full of kings and priests. All right, to offer up spiritual sacrifices. What's the spiritual sacrifices? Ourselves. All right, like it tells you in Psalms, if I'm not mistaken, the 51st chapter, a contrite soul is what the Most High is looking for. So that's the spiritual sacrifice, giving yourself to the Most High in the spirit, acceptable to the Most High by Yahushua Mashiach. Wherefore also it contained in the scriptures, "Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded." And that chief cornerstone is a representation of Yahushua, because the chief cornerstone is the most important stone that is established on the building of a temple or a building of anything. All right, so our chief cornerstone is Yahushua. All right. And that's why it says, "He that believeth on him shall not be confounded." All right. I'll read his last verse. "Unto you therefore which believe, he is precious, but unto them which be disobedient, the stones which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner." So that's Yahweh Shah, because a lot of when the Lord was establishing it, His Spirit on the earth, telling the different people, for instance, that this temple is gonna be destroyed and the new temple is gonna be built up in 3 days. They disallowed that, but he's the chief cornerstone that's gonna be built upon. That's what that parable was talking about, and we're still building on the Spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah, being what, lively stones. And it's another scripture that talks about it. I think it says James and Cephas, who seem to be pillars, because pillars are structural units that keep the building structure and intact. You know, so the Most High is metaphorically comparing us to different pieces, or different building blocks and different materials to establish a temple. All right, where His Spirit will dwell. So this is Mark 14:58. "We heard him say, I will destroy the..." Matter of fact, I'm going to jump up a little bit. Uh, Mark 14:57. "And there arose certain and bare false witness against him, saying, We heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands." So they basically were speaking out and basically trying to get on the Lord, thinking that He's talking about destroying the temple that was in Jerusalem before 70 AD, because this is around 30 to 33 BC. All right, when the Lord was was basically dwelling on earth. So the temple was very well established during that time. That's why after Yahweh Shah died, the temple got rent asunder. But going back to the point, so they basically got on the Lord for basically thinking that He's going to try to destroy the temple. But the Lord was talking about the spiritual temple being destroyed. And the temple being destroyed and the spiritual temple being brought up through Him. And it says, "And within 3 days I will build another made without hands. But neither so did their witness agree together. And the high priest stood up in the midst and asked Yahweh, saying, Answerest thou nothing what it is which these witnesses against thee? But he held his peace and answered nothing. Again the high priest asked him and said unto him, Art thou the anointed, or the Christ, which is the anointed, the Son of the Blessed? And Yahweh said, I am. And ye shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes and saith, What need we any further witnesses? Ye have heard the blasphemy. What think ye? And they all condemned him to be guilty of death. But the Lord was speaking in the spirit, and that's why it says, it says they spit on him, buffeted him, and that's a prophecy coming to pass, because they didn't know what the Lord was saying. The Lord was speaking in the spirit of things. The Lord was coming to establish a spiritual law that these physical men that was going about the common ordinances, so to speak, they couldn't comprehend in their spiritual vessels, so to speak. That's why the Lord was confounding the scribes and the Pharisees, the Sadducees. For instance, Nicodemus, talking about being reborn in the spirit again. And I think it's Luke the 3rd chapter. All right, so that's what we're continuing off. When Yahweh Shah died, we're in the spirit, basically through a particular time frame being raised back up. In this time, that's what we're doing now, raising up this spiritual temple. All right. This is Ephesians 2:21. I'm gonna end it off with this. It says, I'll start at excuse me, 19. Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of the Most High, and are built upon the foundations of the apostles and prophets, Yahweh Shah Mashiach himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto an holy temple in the Lord. So this is the holy temple that's established in the Lord, Yahweh Shah being the chief cornerstone.
in whom ye are also builded together for an habitation of the Most High through the Spirit. So this is what we're establishing. All right, and hopefully brothers was edified by the lesson. That's basically the point. I'll probably do a B-side just to go more into the history, of the temples that were previously established. But this is the main importance, us establishing the temple now. All right, so I want to end it by giving all praises to Yahweh Shemi Awashai, double honors to apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom Maki.